I am really looking forward to having this next guest on the show. She is a great MMA fighter on her own right, coming up into the amazing world of the Barnuckle Fighting Championship, and I can't wait to see what she does. She is a super talented, likable person, and someone that a lot of people are talking about. So she's creating some buzz, and we're so happy to have her on the show. The woman they call the sweetheart, Charisa Sigala. Welcome to the show.
Hi, welcome. Thank you for having me.
My pleasure. So I am excited to talk to you. A lot of people are saying good things about you. You've had 6 fights in MMA, 4-2, which is a very good record. You've looked good. You're jumping now into the Barnuckle Fighting Championship. There's a possible fight down the line if you win this one against Paige VanZant. Although obviously there's no guarantees yet, you know. But I'm excited to see what your thoughts are about this. So when you heard about bare knuckles, can you admit to me what your first initial thought was when someone said, what do you think, Charisa, bare knuckles?
Honestly, I was like, hey, I'm always down to try anything. It was one thing that I never really thought about, but at the time that it was brought up to me, it was already when COVID was going on. So it was like, okay, if I want to keep, displaying my art, I got to do something. And it's boxing pretty much without gloves. So, to me, I was like, I'm down. I'll do it.
I like it. Now, in MMA, it's already hard for people to get a lot of support from friends and family. Might even be harder for women to get support when their friends or family might say, no, don't get your face all messed up, But what was it like when you mentioned to your friends or family bare knuckles? Did they shriek or say, what the hell? Or what was the reaction from some of the people close to you?
I think a lot of them know who I am and know that I'm going to do anything. But for the most part, that's always what I get. Like, what about your face? I'm like, I can do the same thing in MMA. I can get hurt, My dad gets a little bit worried about me. I'm still his baby girl. I know how it is because I have kids and I feel the same way. But, he's still there supporting me. So, they know that I'm going to do what I want to do because I've always been motivated and that type of person that if I want to do it, I'm stubborn as heck. They're not gonna change my mind.
Absolutely. I like that. So let me ask you this: training for bare knuckles. This is one of the things that is very interesting because even when you're in MMA or in boxing, you're not gonna be like trying to take each other's heads off in training, but at least you can kind of do it to an extent with gloves on. What the heck can you do as far as training for bare knuckles, at least with the headshots? I guess you can train some body work, but not that you want to give away all the secrets you have if you don't want to, but how do you train for bare knuckles? And before you answer that question, my thought is that even though you can't train a lot, the thing I think you wouldn't want is to not know what it feels like for someone to hit you at least maybe not that hard in the face at least a couple of times. I mean, and I wouldn't be surprised if maybe some fighters go into it like that. They just say, no, I don't want anyone hitting me, marking me up, or doing anything with their fist before. But my thought is, if you go into Bare Knuckles Fighting Championship and you have not been hit in the face with a bare fist, then to me that would be insane. What's your thought? How can you prepare? How did you prepare? And what has it been like?
A lot of it's like fighting with MMA gloves, because we're used to. I mean, there is a little bit of padding in MMA gloves, that's the difference. But in every day when you're training, it happens. You try as much as you can to use your boxing to make sure you're not getting hit in the face, but it's going to happen either way. So it's not very different from, practicing for an actual MMA fight. It's a huge difference is you're only using hands. So, you don't have as much to worry about as far as like, I feel like elbow strikes are way worse than getting hit in the face with the fist. These same thing. Cause if you get, you can take a couple punches straight to the face without getting knocked out. But if you get a good elbow, that's it. You're done. A good knee to the head, you're done. So, we all have been there, getting punched in the face in MMA practice. So not a huge difference other than the fact there's no padding.
Right, absolutely. No, obviously it's not something that you can or would want to train a lot, you know, for having a sparring partner hit you a lot with bare knuckles, because the chances of you getting a cut and then the fight being canceled are present. But have you at least had someone punch you in the face in the last few weeks with a bare fist just to see what it feels like, may I ask?
So we do, when I start sparring at a couple places, we'll start like practicing with no gloves on, but it's not like you're going full force.
Right,
So
right.
I know what it feels like to get hit in the face with knuckle, but I think they know what it feels like to get hit in the face with my knuckle more than they do me the other way around, just because a lot of training partners you end up with are going to be guys, because girls are growing, but you still have way more men in there than women, and so it's a little bit different.
Absolutely. Well, that's good. It's good that you're getting that feeling, because once in a while, if you watch some bare knuckle fights, once in a while when someone gets hit and reacts really badly the first time, it looks right, almost like they never had anyone hit them even medium speed with a bare fist. And as soon as they feel it, they're like, wow, what the hell was that? But you mentioned you've had it, you've done some warming up with that, and people tag you a little bit, and then from MMA about being hit with a knee and being hit with an elbow. So I think you can handle that. The one thing that I've learned about bare knuckles fighting is that there's not so many jabs thrown. You got to be selective, right? Excuse me, with what you're throwing, because hands aren't really made to be hitting faces, right, bone on bone. And if you think you're just going to jab the crap out of someone, your hands will be broken probably after the third or fourth or fifth jab. So the punches need to mean something, and I know they will. What do you know about your opponent? You're both making your pro debut, excuse me, in the bare knuckles arena, but she's had a couple MMA fights and you've had several more MMA fights. What do you think she's gonna bring as far as a challenge to you in this boxing match with bare knuckles?
I know she's a little wild. She goes out there and she has straights. That's what she throws a lot, but I'm also used to that from training, and I've been working a lot of boxing. That's pretty much all that we've been working on for this whole camp. And it's something that I've been working on actually since I started MMA career, because I have my black belt in Jujitsu right now, and when I started MMA, I was already a purple belt. So the one area that I knew I needed to work on the most was the stand-up. So since day one, when I was getting ready to even do my first amateur fight, it was all about boxing. So for me, like, I've seen a little bit of everything, because you get a ton of different training partners, especially at a gym like where I train at. There's not too many big gyms around this area, and in the Inland Empire of California, you got a lot in LA and a lot in like OC area, but we're a good hour without traffic. If there is traffic, it's like 2 hours away. So Millennia is honestly the biggest gym out here. So I've seen so many different styles, which is what gets me ready for these. So I've seen people like her before. I've trained with people like her before. So I know what she's bringing. I know she's going to come out strong, and she's going to really, really try to push that beginning pace. But, I've been training for a long time, and I've done a lot of strength and endurance, and I know my cardio is there for her.
Very cool. Now, you may know that before boxing with gloves started, there was bare knuckles boxing. A lot of people know, but a lot of people don't know that boxing with gloves started at a certain time long ago, and before that it was bare knuckles. Do you know what year that was that changed?
It was in 1892 that they started doing gloves.
That's right. Yep, that was it. Yep, the Marquess of Queensberry rules with gloves started, and really it was to protect the hands. A lot of people thought it was to become not like less barbaric or less dangerous or less brutal. It really wasn't. People's hands were breaking early in fights, and but now I think in the bare knuckles there's a lot more knowledge, and people aren't going all berserker mode, with with the bare hands, and so you can fight strategically. But yeah, so that actually was the sport many years back, so it is an ancient and historic sport. Let me look at a couple of viewer questions here for you. One person, Danny McGinn, when he heard that you're a mom and you're fighting bare knuckles, he said that's one tough mama. So you got some respect. Say that again. We didn't hear that. I talked over you.
My kids say the same thing.
Nice.
They love it.
That's awesome. And you have 2 kids?
I have 3.
Wow.
My oldest is 19. Yeah, she's going to be there with me at the fight. So.
Nice. That's awesome. That is so cool. Got to cheer for a mother, and you look in great shape, and and you're ready to go. That's cool. The second person asked an interesting question here, and since you are a jiu-jitsu black belt, I'm sure you have an opinion on this person. I don't want you to spend too much time on this because we want to go back on your fight and talk about you, but Ibzan Arroyo asks your thoughts on Ronda Rousey overall.
So I've always loved her as a fighter, because the thing is, for women, we always needed a pioneer, and so she was the one that really got women into UFC and getting I think more eyes on the sport. And I think that's one thing for just women's sports in general that you need somebody that's going to go out there and that's going to be able to capture the hearts of millions to get people looking at the sport, because I feel like that's the biggest thing for girls. It's so hard. You go out there and you put as much, if not more, into it than the men, because we have so much more, I feel like, to prove than others. So I think in that aspect, I loved her, and I loved her style. Not everybody agrees with who she was outside of the ring, but as far as inside of the octagon, I think she was amazing, and she did a lot for women's sports.
Absolutely. Speaking of which, when you were thinking about getting into MMA, because I think you got into MMA, what, 4 years ago as a pro, or 3?
I've actually started like in my 30s, though. It was like about a little over 6 years ago that I started training for it. And then it was like 2015 is when I had my first fight.
Okay. Did you look up to any female or male MMA fighters like Ronda Rousey? And if so, who were the people that either you looked up to or that you enjoyed watching or thought were really good and talented?
I always liked people like Gina Carano and Kathy Long were amazing. And then when I first started watching UFC, it was like I loved watching Roger Huerta. I know he's not really into it anymore. I know he comes and goes in Bellator and hasn't had the greatest records lately, but he was always interesting to watch. I loved watching his fights.
Yeah.
And then of course the Ortiz and Chuck Liddell, and those were all amazing fighters. And GSP is another Gracie Baja black belt. So I always loved watching their athleticism and just what they did in the ring and what they brought to it, and how some of them were a little unsuspecting, that you wouldn't think that they would do as much as they did, and they did. They brought it every single time.
Absolutely. You think we'll see GSP back for one more, and do you think it'll be against Khabib?
I don't know. I feel like the time is almost over where he could come back, because I feel like there's going to be a point where nobody cares as much anymore, because there's so many other people that are getting out there that are up and coming, but everybody loves GSP, but there's still a certain age. I know we don't want to say that, but there's still a certain age at one point where you're like, am I really going to want to watch this fight?
Yeah.
Is it really going to be GSP, or should he just say, retired and just leave his record where it was?
Yeah, absolutely. He's an amazing fighter. I think he's going to be 40 in a few months. And about 3 or 4 years ago in an interview, he said he's not going to be doing this in his 40s. Although you never know. And I hate to have people have a number stop them when it's been proven you can still be really effective.
Oh, yeah.
And speaking of which, what do you think as far as seeing women over 40? I had Sarah McMahon on the show, and she's got a big fight coming up. She was on the show 6 months ago, and then we had her on the show, I think, a couple weeks ago. It seems like we're seeing women in their mid-30s, but when it comes down to seeing women that are 39, 40, above 40, we're not yet seeing that. Do you think there's any reason why we won't see that, or that it won't be anywhere near as prevalent as with men? Or do you think, just given enough time, we will start seeing more women 38, 39, 40, 41, 42, and even higher competing in MMA or striking? How about let's just say MMA for to start? What do you think?
I still think you'll have some, and I think it'll keep going. One of the ones that actually, when I was a blue belt, I actually went against her in a jiu-jitsu competition. But Marianne Renau, that's another one that's in her 40s and she's still fighting.
Yes.
And I almost think the mindset, and also we have kids, and there's a certain age where you just want to spend your time, especially because we give up so much time doing this. You sacrifice a lot. So there's a point where you just want to be with your family. And so I think that's one of the reasons why some women step out of it. Plus, I don't always think age is a limiting factor, but there is a point, just knowing mechanics and genetics and what's going on with the body, because that is one of the things that I do study in school. You just know that there's going to be a point where you're going to have to work out like 10 times harder than the 20-year-old that you're going against.
Yeah.
So I think you'll still see it. It's just going to be one of those things where it's going to be somebody that has to be very, very dedicated in training.
Absolutely. So bare knuckles, tell us the date, and I don't know if the arena is set yet, but if it is, I think they may possibly be allowing fans. So fill us in on how people can watch this fight on TV and possibly go and see this great bare knuckles fighting championship event called Knuckle Mania, I think. Unless I'm wrong, tell us more about this great fight you have coming up February the 5th, right?
Yes. So February 5th, it's in Tampa, Florida. I can't remember the name of the actual arena, but there is still seating available. If you go to barnuckle.tv, it will direct you on how to purchase tickets, and then also how you can go and watch it. It's going to be on pay-per-view, and it's on quite a few different carriers. I know Fight's one. It tells you how to get it on Spectrum, Charter, pretty much anywhere you can get pay-per-view. It looks like it's available.
Nice. And Fight TV, as you mentioned, one of them absolutely is a great source as our distributor here. They have some amazing pay-per-views. So let me see. We've actually got about 12, 13 minutes left. So have people come over to you and said, "You're a pretty girl. What the hell? Come on, do straight jujitsu. Do something." I mean, are you finding, obviously your dad, but then I think your dad realizes that he doesn't want to ruin your dreams. But have you had people try to like big brother you or big sister you in the way to say, "I'm just going to grab her and turn her face away from thinking about fighting, and I'll put my arm around her and walk her somewhere else and say, hey, here's your new career. No more fighting for you just because I love you"? Has anyone come off like that, trying really hard to change your mind?
All the time. But most of the time they won't tell me. They'll tell like another family member or like my kids, like, "Your mom shouldn't do that. Like, why does she want to ruin her face?" But for me, I'm like, your looks are an easy way to get into things. Because everybody was always like, "You should be a model." I'm only 5'4". I'm not tall enough to be a model.
Right.
And I've always been more the type that I want to do something based on skill. And so I'm really, really stubborn. And so to get me out of not wanting to do this, you'd have to be like handcuff me, like, and not let me go to my flight or something like that, to not get me to do this. I'm one of those that will just, if I set my mind to something, I'm doing it, and nobody's gonna change my mind about it.
I like that. You're very determined, and that's important. So I think in the future you're open to both MMA and bare knuckle boxing matches. Am I right?
Of course. MMA is how I came into the sport. It's something I love because, like I said, bare knuckle boxing is amazing. I'm so happy that Paul Tyler from Bare Knuckle Management got me into this, and then David Feldman and Nate Shook are having me on this card. But I've always had a love for being able to use all my skill sets, including jujitsu. So I always will want to go back to MMA and do it if the opportunity is there. It's always whatever makes the most sense, you know, whatever's gonna, obviously the pay is one of the things, and just what is it that's gonna do to, you know, take my career even further. That's always what I look into things when I get into them.
Absolutely. And you're fighting in the flyweight division at this great Knuckle Mania event for bare knuckles, and you've also been fighting exclusively at flyweight in MMA, or am I wrong?
I was doing straw weight. I actually did a catch weight pretty close to atom weight for one of my fights, and then straw weight for most of them. But coming into this one, I want the names like that come with it. Which, you know, if I'd love to fight Paige coming up next, if that's, you know, where they want to put me, I'm gonna go with whoever they want to go with for my next fight. You know, I'm always looking ahead, and for me, if for bare knuckles, straw weight isn't really set the way it is for flyweight, and flyweight isn't out of the question as far as like weight cuts and stuff. For me, it makes sense.
So this fight is flyweight for your first bare knuckles fight, right?
Yes.
Okay, very cool. And you're open to others. That makes sense. So Paige, what do you think? Obviously, I think probably not because you necessarily love Paige VanZant, but you're cheering for her because it would be a super exciting fight with you, obviously. But break that fight down for me, if you would. Who is her opponent? Is it not Britain Hart? No, is
Yes.
it? Or is it? Yeah. And so Britain Hart, she wasn't the one that just fought the Aussie Beck Rawlings, was she, or no?
She did. She fought Beck Rawling. That was, I think, one of her first fights that Britain did.
And I watched
it. Yeah.
Yeah, that was an interesting fight. I mean, Beck obviously looked way more polished, way more composed, you know, and Britain, but Britain was scrappy. She was moving a lot, though. I mean, like, she was bouncing like a bunny rabbit. It was kind of wild to see, and you know, Beck looked like she was just like a sniper holding her arm back and just ready to smash her. And but I'll tell you, I think that, you know, that Britain, you know, did pretty well. But what do you think? Break this down. How do you see Paige VanZant versus Britain Hart playing out?
I find it's probably going to be the same thing because, you know, every fight that I've seen Britain do, it's pretty similar in that bouncing around kind of style, and just trying to go in there and going hard. But I definitely see, I know Paige has a boxing background, so I definitely feel like she's going to be that sharper, more polished fight. Because, you know, one thing with California, I know she's come from out here. She was up in San Diego. She's been at a lot of really good camps. You're gonna find the more polished fighters going to be at the better camps. You're gonna definitely see, I think, a huge difference in just the footwork and just how calm they are under pressure. Because that's one of the things, even with Beck, is, you know, even though you take punches, you're not seeing them like fall to the canvas or like act, you know, turn around or anything like that for their opponent to get them, because they've been there. They've been through hard sparring matches with people that are at decent levels. So I think that's what you're going to see with Paige and Britain.
Yeah, absolutely. Have you been impressed with Paige's fighting skill in MMA? She's fought so many tough women, and you know, she hasn't beaten a lot of them, although she beat a few of them. She started really young. I remember when it was Paige and I can't believe I forgot the guy's name. Who was the young blonde guy that was like super hyped up at that time? Do you remember who I'm talking about?
It wasn't Dillashaw. I can't remember his name, but I know who you're talking about.
Oh, he's such a nice dude, though. Like, and then he eventually went to a different organization. It was Paige, and I think his name rhymes Sage Northcutt. Remember?
Yes.
Yep, Paige and Sage.
Yes.
And they were super young, and they were both scrappy. I mean, I remember one of the things about Paige is that she took just a hellacious beating by Rose Namajunas, and I think didn't get subbed until late in the fourth round. But wow, I mean, like, you know, let me ask you this. I think that there are some people that are saying that they love to see women's fights that are even, but there's some people that are saying that some people don't want to see one-sided women's fights where one woman is getting just beaten up and ragdolled and big sistered and and just smashed, and some people are saying if that happened too much, that could possibly hurt the sport. Do you agree with that? Do you think that could be something that promoters worry about, or that you think it could be a problem if there started to be some matches, like if you started to just beat this girl to a pulp but she wouldn't go down? What do you think? Do you think that's something that is a problem, or do you think people will get used to that just like with men?
Quite honestly, I almost feel like that's a man saying that, because that just sounds like something that I would hear the guys say, because I think they think of us as like pretty little delicate flowers. But honestly, like when I watch fights, I watch to see, usually it's the girls that I want to watch and see fight, because I like seeing where they go from there. And I don't really see, I think what people want to see is the action back and forth. And when it's so one-sided, you just feel really bad for the person. I think that's in any of them, whether it's men or women. So
Right.
I don't think that's that's just a girl thing. But I can see people saying that. But I don't think that's something really that promoters should be looking at.
Right.
I really think promoters want to put on a great fight, whatever is going to get everybody hyped up. But I know how frustrating it is when you're like punching somebody and you're like, why won't this girl go down? Like, I keep hitting her and I see her keep backing up. Why is she not done? I think we've all been there.
Absolutely. Absolutely. What sports did you participate in when you were younger? Now, we only have about 4 minutes left.
Okay.
So give me some quick answers to these questions, rapid fire. What sports were you involved in before Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu and before fighting? And were you even involved in BJJ before MMA? I'm sure you were to have your black belt now.
Yes, I was in Jiu-Jitsu. And then when I was younger, I was in basketball, softball, and volleyball. Those were my biggest ones. And I did a little bit of track. I was hurdles in middle school, but that's pretty much all my sports that I did.
Sounds good. And your kids, 2 boys and a girl, or 2 girls and a boy, or 3 girls?
2 girls and a boy, and it goes girl, boy, girl.
That's very cool. So the boy's got a big sister and a little sister, right?
Yes, yes. But her little sister is only about 10 months younger.
Okay, that's cool. That's quick. That's very cool. What would be your feeling if any of them expressed interest in fighting professionally as they started to get to be in their teens?
You know what? I wouldn't mind it. I've been one that's the proponent, especially for Jiu-Jitsu, because I do feel Jiu-Jitsu a little more gentle. Not so much because there are chokes and stuff involved. But it's just one of those things. I want them to know how to take care of themselves, especially the girls. I've always been a proponent for girls to do jiu-jitsu.
Very cool. I agree. It's amazing self-defense for women. It's interesting, too, because learning jiu-jitsu is such a great art for women, especially to know to protect themselves against assault from men, sexual assault and like that. But yet it seems like it's a hard sell to get the average woman to go into a class where they're going to be laying on someone else's body. And it's really too bad, because as you know, probably when you first started, a lot of women just immediately say, hell no. I am never coming back here again. Quickly, what could you tell women about how to get over that and to learn an art that could really help them protect themselves?
Well, if you're really thinking about it, and if that's what you want to do, why would you care who you're going against? Because the whole point is to learn how to get them off of you. So who cares if somebody's laying against you? And then a lot of places now do girls programs because of that. So
Yes.
There should be nothing that stands in your way. Like, there's always somebody that's there that can help you.
Absolutely. Another question: what if a girl goes in there with her boyfriend and she says, "All I want to roll with is my boyfriend. I don't want to roll with any women." Is that okay, or do you think that's not going to quite get you the 100% the feel that you want?
100% okay, but 100% of the time, almost everyone I know it won't.
Gotcha.
Well,
Understood. Gotcha. Yeah, it's actually repeat that. It got a little bit muffled. One more time.
sorry about that. Yeah, 100% of the time, that's totally okay. But almost 100% of the time, it never works out well. You end up fighting all the time.
Yep, I agree.
Almost every
Yep, I agree with that. Absolutely important. Well, Charisa, I really want to thank you so much for coming on. Before I let you go, I want to let people know that next week we have on our show the One Championship heavyweight champion from One Championship, Brandon Vera, and we also have Miranda Maverick coming on our show, and she has a huge matchup against Jillian Robertson, and you know, I'm sure you've heard of all of them. Real quick, who's your favorite UFC women's champ that you think is going to keep the belt longest? Amanda Nunes, Valentina Shevchenko, or Zhang Weili?
My favorite has always been Valentina Shevchenko. I know Amanda Nunes is awesome and really strong, but Valentina has always been my favorite to watch.
Absolutely great call. I like her a lot too. The Bullet is amazing. So February 5th on pay-per-view, Knuckle Mania, the Bare Knuckles Fighting Championship event. David Feldman, Nate Shook, all the amazing people there. This is someone you guys don't want to miss. Charisa, the Sweetheart Sigala. Can't wait to see her in action and pull off the win. And I just want to thank you so much, Charisa, for taking your time, jumping in here. You're such a nice person to talk to, and just seem like you're a really genuine, sweet person, a mother of 3, going out, doing your thing fearlessly. Big respect to you. I can't wait to see you, and our whole team will be cheering for you on February 5th.
Thanks. Can't wait to go in. Thanks for having me.
You're very welcome. Have a great night.
Thank you for watching the Hannibal TV. Please like this video if you enjoyed it, and click the subscribe button to not miss any of our latest shoot interviews, match videos, or news updates. Support us on patreon.com for $1.99 a month to watch our full shoot interviews ad-free and help our channel grow. Follow us on Twitter at the Hannibal TV for instant updates.